welcome everyone. Thank you for joining the Bear Facts Plus. I'm really excited to introduce Lady PheOnix to the Bear Facts audience. Those of you that are not familiar with her work, she will definitely get into the nitty gritty, but it's been wonderful to get to know her first digitally as a kind of a pioneer bringing NFTs to the Clubhouse space, and also being a curator over the years, doing an amazing show at MOAD in 2018, which I really look forward to discussing as a starting point for this conversation and much more. We'll also be having some of the artists join us this afternoon around the works that are currently at Christie's. And I hope all of you, while you're listening, go to Christie's to check out the auction or on social media. The artworks are absolutely beautiful. Well, it is 2:01, so I want to be conscientious of time. So I want to start with, it was interesting doing a little research and trying to think of how to introduce the work you're doing. And one of the most beautiful phrases that I just wanted to speak to before I'd love you, Lady PheOnix, to introduce yourself, was they said, her vision of the future is one of healing through personal sovereignty and learning lessons passed down by her ancestors. And I really want to also use this time to discuss digital art and the NFT space, but really speak to this bigger picture that is, in a way, I think a lot about this healing that you are bringing to the table through the work you're doing. So, with that, I would love it if you could introduce yourself to the Bear Facts Plus crowd. Thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you, Roger, for having me. I pulled up just really quickly Regina, who covered documentation, and Josh Davis, known as PlayStation, and Claudia Hart, who's an artist. These are both artists in the show. So as I see other artists trickle in, I'll pull them up. But yeah, I think this is a great place to start. So hello, everyone. Thanks for having me, Vajra. Hello, Fairfax community. Thanks, Josh, also for having me. Lady PheOnix, I've been in the space since 2013, curating art. I'm not quite an OG. I think you have two super OGs on the stage with PlayStation and Claudia, so I'm excited for them to talk about their work in the show. I love that quote. I don't know who said that, but thank them for me. That's really beautiful, and I think it is how I would describe what I'm up to. I'm less about the ones and the zeros, right, and the pixels, and more about the sort of operating system for the soul. And for me, art and technology have been that, pathway to get me to various places within inside my consciousness, but also freedom of expression, and to, in my own small way, lead the charge on making sure that the most creative people in the world have absolute sovereignty, both in their practice, but also in their personal economies. And I think there is something personally healing about that, but I think there's also at large something very healing about that. And so, yeah, I
I'd
don't know if
love
I
it.
even answered your initial
You
question.
you
Sorry.
did. It's okay. I would love it if you would speak to what happened in 2015 that really changed your trajectory. I think that we all, in our careers, have a moment where we feel like we really click in to what we were put on the planet, and I think that there's definitely an interesting story there that I'd love for you to speak to.
In 2015, I kind of changed gears. I had exited my beverage company that I had with a gentleman called Daniel, and Isa, and a number of other really smart, conscientious, tapped in and turned on folks. We had made the world's, when I say the world's, that's in quotes, because everybody's the first of everything, and I don't know that any of us can really claim first for very many of the things we do, but in the modern context for the beverage industry, we had created the first fresh pressed ginger and turmeric drink that was healing a lot of people, specifically, you know, folks who had issues with inflammation and neurodegenerative disease and those who had been recovering from cancer and all sorts of leaky, gut, all sorts of things. Feeling very happy with that work. Around 2015, I realized that I needed to be home more full time with my family. My grandmother had Alzheimer's and her health was declining. And the year before, I had gone up in 2014 and hung out and spent the majority of the year there, but then went back to New York to figure out if I was going to stay or if I would pack down my life. And it turned out that I needed to pack down my life and head to California permanently. In doing so, felt sad to say goodbye to my friends in New York and my lifestyle there, but thought, okay, now I'm in service of a woman who literally wiped my butt and put me to sleep and would sing songs to me. And we had great adventures in the garden. This is someone I would, certainly give my life for. So I can put my life on pause in New York and go to California for as long as I needed. That was a conversation in my head. Turns out that being a caregiver to someone with Alzheimer's is not only life changing, it's super depressing. And I wasn't prepared for that. And my mom, who's an artist, said, "Hey, we should go take an art class. You'll feel better." And I said, "Okay." So we did, and I felt really great. And that was more or less 2014. But why it influenced 2015 is because I realized, like, oh, I'm an entrepreneur, but there's nothing to like make or build here because my life has changed to focus on caregiving. So I thought, well, I'll make an application for my grandmother to help her with her Alzheimer's. One, it'll help her sleep at night because she wasn't sleeping, and me being up all night with her, having our various adventures from let's look at the moon while the alarm is on and have the police come when she's just on the porch looking at the moon, hanging out, And it's like, well, Graham, it's 3 in the morning, and the moon hasn't really changed much in a few hours. So, how about coming back to bed? She's like, no, I think I'll stay out here for an hour more. So we're just out on the porch, and I'm just letting the police know, hey, that was a false alarm, you guys. Like, there's nothing going on but my grandmother in her nightgown and the moon. A few episodes of that, and not getting sleep led me to be even more depressed. And so, out of desperation, I came up. I kind of spaghetti coded this application for virtual reality that would help my grandmother eventually improve her memory and improve her sleep, which was tremendous for me. And I ended up entering that into the Keck School of Medicine's ninth annual body computing contest at USC, and I was a finalist. It gave me a ton of hope. It gave me a ton of hope. Not only did it help my grandmother before I entered the competition, but it was helping the doctors there saw that it would help their patients. And
When
so
I
I
was
thought, oh my
listening
God,
to this, when I was listening to this story, I had to replay it because it was like, oh my goodness, where in the backstory did you have all of the computing power and knowledge to figure out how to do this while being exhausted and taking care of your grandmother? So I feel like you're very detailed in your story, but I have a
the
lot of
University of
questions.
YouTube. It's
Wow.
the University of YouTube. And I didn't add, I had actually enrolled in school to learn biomedical engineering because I thought like this was the path I needed to take to like help my grandmother.
But
Turns out biomedical engineering.
this also
Go
made
ahead.
me really think about how this exhibition you've curated at Christie's, how, just like you created this application for your grandmother, no one told you you could or couldn't do this. You just went and did it. And so I wonder if there is a lot of information in terms of how you were able to kind of find your calling through this very intense moment, and then create something so impactful that has a ripple effect so beyond what you first did. And I think is a lot of excitement around this exhibition in terms of what its ripple effect will be.
It's so funny, Vajra, if I can just interrupt you really quickly. I do this to people when I'm moderating and they're going on rambling. So please feel free to like interject anytime I'm rambling. Um, no one, no, listen, here's the thing. No one's gonna ever teach you how to really do stuff for yourself. You're the one that's gonna have to figure that out. You're the one that's gonna have to figure out what's important to you enough to cause a transformation in your life so you can see what it is see what it is you envision living in the world. No one told me about a VR application for Alzheimer's. I had to figure that out between like YouTube and medical journals, right? Trying to figure out if this was a thing, if anybody was interested. And I happened upon the Twitter for USC that said, "Hey, apply here now. It's invite only." And I wrote them back and said, "Here's my wild idea. Do you think it has any merit?" They said yes. I tapped in with my buddy who was also a BME biomedical engineering student. We were both almost graduating. And I said, "Please join me on this." I wasn't even finished with my program when I entered this hackathon, and I was a finalist. And it was all that I needed to give me hope, to let me know that, A, the online space is somewhere I belong, and B, I could actually do something to help people, not just my grandmother. And I've always wanted to help people. I mean, proof of sovereignty, doesn't exist to just like quote do something cool or historic. I mean, if this works the way I think it's going to work, and not in terms of just getting sales, but in terms of the inner transformation of each and every artist, and then those who really get what we're doing here, that for me is the thing. Sure, it's an auction. Of course, I want the artist to sell like crazy. I want them to get big money. All of the proceeds are everything gained at auction goes straight to the artist. It's a no commissions auction from Christie's, which is pretty incredible that they would, be forward thinking enough to say, yes, we'll partner with you on this auction where we get zero from the artist. The only thing they get is buyer's premium. So I definitely have to tip my hat always to Christie's for that, because I don't, from what I was told, there's no other time in the auction's history, in the company's history, that they've had a no commissions auction for artists. So I think it's pretty incredible. Plus the documentation, which I'll let Regina speak to. And I say this with so much respect for everyone else who's dropped an NFT. I think that with this show, this is the way you drop, right? With proof of sovereignty, this is the way you drop. This is the proper way to really do a drop, to take care of the NFTs, to take care of the artists. And I think that from here on, people should use it as a model. Of course, they can do whatever they want, on that, add a remix to the foundations of this, but this is the foundation. If people aren't dropping like this moving forward, personally, I don't consider those real NFTs. And I know that's like a whoa, I can't believe she just said that. I said it. Regina, I'm gonna volley you to you for a second, unless Roger, I saw your mic off. I wanted
No,
Regina
no,
because she's
no,
a
go for it. I'd love to hear from Regina.
okay. Yeah, Regina,
Um,
if I can just introduce Regina really quickly. Regina is an expert at documentation. She not only has a true passion for this, as both someone who was one of two people who entered the first program to ever talk about the type of documentation she does for time-based media. She's also a curator. She's curated like 200 shows. She has a passion for this, as well as like the professional um, acumen. So it was really an honor, actually, like truly, truly an honor to work with Regina. She's one of a kind. And I advise everybody to give her a follow and hit her up because she's amazing. But you can't employ her because I'm already working on securing that for for myself with Regina, because she is very much in high demand. So Regina, thanks for being my right and left hand on this exhibition. You've been really incredible, and I'd love for you to talk about the magic that you worked here and everything else you do.
Thank you so much for the introduction, Lady Phe. I'll keep it short so Roger, you can get to your next question as well. But um, for years now, going back to graduate school, even before that, I've been focused on and studied and written about and worked with institutions around time-based media, conservation and curation. So before really the NFT craze, I was already consulting with institutions like the Museum of the Moving Image, multiple artists, the Smithsonian Cooper Hewitt Museum, to understand how they can better preserve, educate on, display, exhibit works that I call variable complex media works. So it could be anything from like a Nam June Paik all the way to being a performance work or being a born digital work, which is a lot of what we have in the Proof of Sovereignty show. I had also, because it was kind of tangential, paid attention to blockchain technology in general since 2013, really became interested in it in terms of artwork in 2015. And then by 2017 with the CryptoKitties, I thought, okay, well, this is actually viable. And in 2018, when IPFS put out their white paper for Protocol Labs, then I got really excited just about distributed storage in relationship to blockchain, even though it in itself isn't a blockchain, IPFS. And then January rolled around, January 2021, I joined Clubhouse, saw that suddenly thousands and thousands of people thought that this was the new big thing in the fine art world, and I had a lot of knowledge to share on that. And unfortunately, that knowledge was at first at odds with the existing community on, say, Clubhouse, because there was a lot of misinformation. And that misinformation was mostly around blockchain preservation, saying that, oh, the blockchain can preserve my art, or, IPFS in itself preserves my art. It's forever. I don't have to worry about any of that. I can upload a JPEG. So I have spent since January now trying to educate artists, institutions, Christie's as well, on understanding why that's not the case, but that we're not, there's no hope. It's not true. There's no hope. That there are standards that museums and academia have been using for well over a decade now, and it's constantly growing and changing, that can be applied to galleries, auction houses, artist studios, etc., to help them with making sure their work does still exist in 10 years, even in 2 years. We're going to see a lot of orphan NFTs, and that's exactly what I'm trying to mitigate right now with this Christie sale.
Wow, Regina, thank you so much for joining us. I feel like you are a voice I've been searching for during my time of education over the last few months, and I'm so glad that Lady PheOnix, as I've been getting to know her, I really do see her as such an official connector within this space of the right voices, and it's refreshing to also hear you speak to kind of the underbelly that Clubhouse sometimes does, just like MySpace and all of the other social platforms we've all experienced over the years, that you have to be careful.
You have to be careful, but also, when you find stronger voices in the space like those here on the stage, make sure you interact with them, support them, and if you're doing something cool, let them know how they can support you as well. What I love about working with Regina in particular, she got sovereignty right off the bat. It wasn't something that I had to explain, and as a time-based media specialist, she has the very same goals, and so this entire team from Monograph, the folks who covered our our smart contracts, to Regina who covered documentation, we're all very much in alignment with each other and very much artists first. And I've appreciated greatly working with them both, in particular Regina, because I've worked with her the closest, like calling every day, several times a day, checking in on different things regarding this auction. I mean, there's so much to do. This is my very first auction. You don't really get how much work goes into all of this, how much communication goes into all of this. It's something that sort of took me by surprise. I will have to admit, there's been a number of sleepless nights getting this to perfection, so to speak. So I'd love to hear, if it's okay, Vajra, from some of the artists. We have PlayStation, again, Joshua Davis, Claudia Hart, Itzel, also known as IX Shells, and Aurea Harvey. I'd love to hear from each of them and have them talk about the work in the show, and also speak about what sovereignty means to them. I'd love to actually hear Vajra and Regina, before we go to the artists, what sovereignty means to either of you. Vajra, from a journalist and sort of like marketing and brand perspective, and maybe personal perspective as well, and then Regina from a personal perspective, but also from a time-based media specialist perspective.
What a great question. And I feel like I'm so excited to answer it now, working with my fellow CEO, and mentor Josh, where it really does feel like a space that, his motto is, if you find it interesting, others will too. And I think that journalism in many ways has lost that essence because of advertorial and luxury media kind of infiltrating um, authentic stories. And so I feel really lucky that I get to host conversations like this that feel so close to the fire that I'm interested in. So I would say that the media company I get to work for right now is a really big sense of sovereignty for me in many ways, and it's continuing to build a sense of following my nose and feeling really gratified by that ability.
Thank you, Vajra. Regina?
Well, sovereignty quite literally means a sense of authority, which gives at first the idea that you can rule over others, which isn't necessarily something I believe in. It's a hierarchy comes to mind, right? But it also can mean, in this case, to me, it means the autonomy of the artist. And I think I've thought a lot over the last couple of years about, like, say, data responsibility, right? And these platforms, I think generally when they have their own contract, an artist signs up and they use a platform contract, it's almost like they're signing away a right that they could have and a sense of autonomy that they can have that actually echoes what blockchain technology is. In a sense, they're not participating in this distributed way they could be when they don't have ownership over that contract. And this also, I want to make a point, isn't true for every single person in the sale. It was those who understood that they could have their own contract, they opted in, which was the majority. And that autonomy is really important because that allows the artist to be able to be their own business, to build their own brand in ways that they never necessarily had the option to before. Not gallerists by any means are not evil. I've been in situations where I've had to play gallerist, but traditionally there was this sense that the artist had to play by a gallery's rules, and this is playing with that a little bit. It's giving the artist the ability to have more say in their life and their practice.
I love that. Yeah, even not just the gallery's rules, but by the auction house's rules, even so to speak. In that, we've managed to mint all of these outside of a Christie's marketplace or blockchain. They're essentially the host and the gracious partner in this relationship. But as Regina said, all of the artists have their own contracts, with the exception of maybe two. And again, all of the artists, even those two, uh, with that exception, again, it's a no commissions auction. So everyone will be getting everything that they've earned, which is really, really powerful, right? And shifts, if this is a model that will, persist for those who drop NFTs, it really shifts now this idea of, the starving artist and what the artist is capable of within an economic sense, but also shifting the idea of authority, where now the artist is eye to eye with the gallerist and or the auction platform eye to eye in a sense where they're negotiating in a way that two sovereign entities would.